It may not look much like it, but tonight we're in the Egyptian capital, Cairo, not the location where we had hoped to film, but in a private TV studio. The fact is that the Egyptian government summarily withdrew our permission to film in the old city 2 nights before the debate, and then apparently discouraged an alternative location from hosting us. Someone, it seems, did not wish this debate to take place.
The military has not only conducted exactly the same abusive practices of the Mubarak regime, but we also have the second element which caused that anger on January 25th, which is impunity.
Egypt is so complex to be controlled by any one entity, including the army, and assuming that much part of the army, I think, will not be fair to understanding the reality, not to the army.
This is a clear case of bad management. The management of this country right now is in turmoil. The ministries are not being able to perform as they should, and it doesn't seem that there's a plan for this country.
Don't you think that genuine reform would actually threaten the status of the military institution? They are currently untouchable. And don't you think that they have forced Mubarak to step down? They sacrificed one to keep the institution with its benefits, whether they're political, whether they're economic, whether they're security related.
There is no one general is going to a Ministry of Trade and telling them, the minister, please stay away, I'm going to run your minister today.
The government can't even resign. It's not even allowed to resign, so it has no powers. Ask any diplomatic staff.
They don't want to stay in power. They are fed up. And believe me, and I know that quite well. They want to go yesterday, not tomorrow.
You argue that the military is interested in real reform. Very briefly, how can you explain crushing people by military cars at Maspero and attacks on media?
I'm from Hama. My question is to Mr. Ammar. You talked about the majority being in support of President Bashar al-Assad. Then why do you feel he needs to take such a drastic measure to stay in power?
What drastic measure?
Killings, murders, following people abroad.
I'm afraid you don't understand what's going on. People are getting killed. And the army is not killing peaceful demonstrators. They are shooting back at people who are shooting at them.
I don't see that Bashar al-Assad and his clique are able to lead, to get to that point where they're actually reconciling with most of the population.
Answer me one question. How do you think much more time he needs? How long do you think he'll be in office for?
If the Arab League were very kind and they gave him 1 week, couldn't they give more? Is that what we're looking for?
Okay. Every falling dictator has blamed a foreign conspiracy for his troubles at home.
Perhaps it's
Mubarak, Gaddafi, Bashar al-Assad today, elsewhere. There is no proof of foreign conspiracy for the moment.
I can tell you why the Americans were happy with Bashar. Because we were silent. We, the Syrian people, were silent. And now we are paying the price for being silent for so long. But now we have spoken, and they have to listen. We need a transitional government that will lead us into democracy, that will run elections, and then we have an elected president. It's as simple as that.
I think that if this situation go into this chaos, it's going to go into very bleak. We're looking at a situation similar to Afghanistan in Syria.
I'm not happy at all. There are dead bodies. There are children with nail bombs in their bodies. Can you explain to me how my family's neighbors in Syria received a dead body with nails drilled into their body, with their nose cut off, with their ears cut off?
I have more than 50 relatives in Homs, madam. And they have been under threat from the armed groups from day one.
Okay, my family has also been under threat from armed groups which were released by prisons by your regime.
Sectarian issues are there, and they are stirred, I believe, by outsiders. And some people in Syria are falling for that.
This is a Syrian revolution, and it's insulting to keep insisting that this is an outside revolution.
Collapse of monarchy in Bahrain, I would argue, would seemingly break the spell or the illusion of invincibility of Gulf monarchy in the region.
There is no civilized country that has prime minister for 42 years. I mean, that you can't believe it. How can you reform when you cannot remove the prime minister and have another one?
Should the prime minister go? Is this what you'll recommend?
I believe yes.
He should go.
I believe yes.
So you're promising my husband will be out of jail in a week?
I'm not.
He's been sentenced to 3 years in a military court.
I said that there is serious reforms coming.
We've heard reports that, allegations rather, that even if Bahrain wanted to reform, Saudi Arabia would not allow it to happen. Any response?
Reform is a process, not a remedy. And what happened in Bahrain was an eye-opener for other countries in the region.
I think one of the most dangerous things in the Arab Spring or Arab Revolution are the Saudis now. They're revolting back and they're fighting all the revolution, all the democratic movement. I think you, as a youth movement around the Arab Spring, you have to be aware of that.
What would convince you that the government is serious about reforming?
Take what we have in the report today, take these actions, the recommendations, as of tomorrow, and then I think the opposition and everyone else will sit down and listen.
Over the last year, as much of the Arab world has sunk into chaos, many Arab eyes have turned towards Turkey. Could this country provide a model for those new Arab states, a successful blend of Islam and democracy?
Arab Islamists are interested in the Turkish model because it gives them a cover for wanting to implement Islamism in their own societies.
Arabs should talk to Arabs about which model would be best for them. They should hear their own voices. Turkey cannot be a model because Arabs have already enough problems.
When you say that this is a flawed model, you should also think in terms of alternative. The alternative in our countries was Mubarak, was Ben Ali, and it still is, unfortunately, the monarchy we have in Morocco.
But all models have their flaws. And again, the democratic deficit that Turkey has is not the core component of the Turkish model. It's only one of the components of Turkish model.
I'm an Iraqi and a Kurd. The Turkish model would be the last model I want to be implemented in Iraq.
Do you want a Turkish model with Erdogan or without Erdogan? Question.
I don't know Erdogan. I'm not going to make that judgment. What I can tell you is I don't want a system that will lend to the existence of an powerful party for a very long time.
Sinan Olgun, do you want to answer that direct question, with or without Erdogan?
That's irrelevant.
Why? He asked it.
Yeah, but the Turkish model is not about Erdogan. It's not about Deniz Baykal. It's not about Kılıçdaroğlu. It's about institutions, how we have created these institutions since 1923. How we have managed the rise of political Islam, how we have created a vibrant democracy.
Right, there is the vote coming up. 59% for the motion, 41% against. The motion has been resoundingly carried.
The Salafis say that Islam is in danger, and my answer is Islam is not in danger, but our freedoms are.
The revolution gave voice to people, but it is taking away the voice of women because of the rise of fundamentalists to power.
Women made those revolutions who brought the so-called fundamentalists to power, and they will be able to define and defend their rights and interests as much as they see fit.
Things are not great at the moment, but I think the revolution is a start for us to go in the right direction.
We need to respect people's choices. We have 27 million voters who voted the Islamists into office, and a lot of them are women who identified with whatever the Islamists have to offer.
The issue I think that we have, and it's easy to blame the Islamist groups, their so-called Islamist groups, but that's not the only problem we have. We have social awareness issues that we have to work on in Libya.
My concern as a woman is the way women think more than men, and the way that they're indoctrinated to think in such a way that limits themselves, and they're not willing to open up to all these opportunities out there, while in the 60s and 70s they were much more willing to do so.
That's why I said in the aftermath of the revolution, in this transitional period, no, we are paying the price. In this time, we are being attacked, we're being asked to go home.
So why are we fearing the reintroduction of Islamic law or Islamic principles into our current democratic practices?
We have to be very vigilant today. When you say what is the problem now if Islamists are in the, we have to watch, because if they write something in the constitution that infringes on those rights, then we are lost.
2 days ago, a couple came into my office with their two bright, beautiful girls, both born with no eyes, no eyeballs. This couple is devastated.
In Britain, for example, you've got communities who, if they're marrying within each other, they're not facing the wider society, and therefore they're having a danger of being more retrenched and basically having effective segregation.
People feel that it is good for the society. It helps the family have stronger ties. We're very proud of the fact that we have the extended family lifestyle. It is something that we would not want to lose.
The risks
which accrue from first cousin marriage really concentrate on otherwise very rare diseases. When diseases are common in the gene pool, as with sickle cell disease or thalassemia, then the added risk of being a first cousin marriage to that of the general population is actually quite low.
My parents are first cousins, and my aunt also she got married to her cousin. She had 2 children. Both of them died early in their life, and they had very dangerous hereditary diseases, and they actually suffered in their lives.
What are the effects of the test if it really shows that this lady or this gentleman has a genetic disorder in his genes? They will not get married. They will not get married at all. Right?
Yes, unfortunately, what you tend to find is that at least half of the people who have the test and show that they are both carriers proceed with marriage anyway.
But at the same time, it's the extended family lifestyle. People feel comfortable to have the extended family, to marry within the family.
It sounds like a sort of radical idea, but don't people partly get married to get away from their families?
Really?
I am against cousin marriages because I am for human rights, for individual freedom, and for a socially integrated society. Thank you.
From Iraq to Egypt to Sudan, non-Muslims have been targeted and their places of worship destroyed. In March, the Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia piled on the pressure, calling for all churches in the Gulf to be destroyed, a demand that provoked outrage and dismay in many parts of the world.
The worst, I want to suggest, is Saudi Arabia, where non-Muslims cannot act worshipfully in that country. I, as a Christian, can't take a cross in, can't take a Bible, not allowed to worship. And there's a sense in which that is profoundly unjust.
Instead of stigmatizing the religious minorities by providing a specific protection to them, the government should face the source of this threat and danger and focus on fighting extremism and intolerance and extract it from its roots.
And the question is quite timely because many Islamist movements are coming to power nowadays. And the question is, what are the rights and what are the challenges of the minorities?
A minority which is being persecuted across the Muslim world is the Shia community, which is being largely prosecuted by Sunni Muslims.
Religion is part of the problem. And it's when religion and politics get muddled up, where religion shapes politics and then depersonalizes other people, de-citizens them, if there is such a word as that.
You say you believe in legislation, you say you believe in education. A little while ago, when a group of people appeared on the streets of Tunis and shouted "Death to Jews," yes, you didn't believe in legislation then. You went straight to the government and said you have to do something about it.
I put complaint in the state.
You asked an Arab government to take urgent measures to protect the minority.
Yes, yes.
And that is the motion that you are against.
Yes, absolutely.
Since I'm the only one now against the motion. So I will remind you that dignity was the keyword of the Arab Spring and not minority. And this is why the new regimes are challenged now in their capacity to embrace diversity and to promote an inclusive citizenship.
Censorship creates a mockery of the arts because censorship is a form of control. It's dictatorship.
This motion has to be opposed because it's stupid. It's stupid and it's offensive.
No one is ever forced to appreciate or like a work of art. You have the freedom to disagree with it and to ignore it even. But we should never try to make art safe. It should always continue to challenge us.
Are we really asking the question, do we have the right to be offended? You know, is that really what we're talking about? And if that's the case, shouldn't we be focusing more on creating spaces for people to disagree, for people to say, I have a different opinion, rather than actually censoring the art, because the art should be the start of the conversation?
Artists portray the world the way it might be. They portray human life the way it might be. It's about possibility and potential, and it's therefore about liberation. And of course that's a threat to anybody who is insecure about the system they've put in place.
Who's censoring the art more than anyone else? It is the auction houses. Money is, at the end, is the thing that censors more than anything else.
I mean, who are we to say this art is bad or good at the end of the day?
That's the question posed to you. Who gets this to decide?
It's up to the individual. The artist has the right of free expression, so does the viewer. If you don't like it, that's your human right.
So if I like anti-Semitism, I should allow it to flourish just because, oh, we don't want to censor?
What is anti-Semitism? To you, it might be anti-Semitic. To others, it might not.
Let's bring the discussion back to the arts. I mean,
Anti-Semitic art.
Free expression is not just for people who agree with you. So if there is anti-Semitic art, it's not going to flourish, by the way, but if you want to put it on, you put it on. Similarly, as long as you respect the opportunity that the rest of the world will have to put anti-Islamic art or anti-Christian art or anti-Hindu art, or anybody who opposes must have equal freedoms. I think that's the principle that people have to defend.
What do you say about the Denmark artist who made fun of our prophet, peace be upon him?
Well, in Denmark, he was allowed to do that.
So he created a hate between nations. So.
It's a clear question.